More formally known as the smoothbore flintlock musket. Now the range on this weapon. A lot of people seem to think that muskets like this are terribly inaccurate. Like you can't hit the broadside of a barn with a gun like this. And considering where I work, I got pretty tired of hearing that. So I grabbed a few of my coworkers and we went up to a range. Don't worry, they didn't let us use any live targets, so we had to trace one of my coworkers out of some cardboard, and we used that silhouette as a target. We did a whole bunch of testing, and by the time we were done, we found you could pretty much nail a human-sized target fairly center mass with a musket like this at about 100 to 150 yards. Now, I even hit one of my targets right in the neck at 200 yards. And I'd tell all of you to be impressed, but I was not aiming at that target. They made like 3 or 4 guys down, but 100 to 150 yards is the range. And if you're a well-trained soldier, you can load this musket once every 15 seconds. So if you're really fast, you can shoot 4 whole bullets a minute. Now, who here thinks 4 bullets a minute today is a really slow rate of fire? Raise your hands. All right, good. And you should be raising your hands thanks to AK-47s, M16s, and M60s. Machine guns, just to name a few, firing lots and lots of bullets per minute. But machine guns don't really hit battlefields until like the 1890s. We're stuck in the 1700s with muskets that shoot 1 bullet every 15 seconds. So they came up with a way to basically turn a musket into a machine gun, and that way was to grab a whole bunch of guys and give them each a musket. Then you tell that bunch of guys with a bunch of muskets to line up in a big long line, shoulder to shoulder. We call that linear tactics. Then what you have to do is you have to tell that big long line of guys to shoot at the same exact thing, at the same exact time. That way somebody will eventually hit something. I'm exaggerating that quite a bit, but really what's going on here is if I have, let's say, 200 guys in a big long line all with muskets, and I tell all 200 of them to shoot at the same exact thing, at the same exact time, very theoretically, isn't that 200 rounds a second? It is for a second. Kind of like a machine gun, just all at once. But really what I'm trying to say with all this is that these big long lines of guys back then weren't a bad idea, especially since no one had a machine gun yet. And they're not lining up like this just to look fancy either. They're lining up like this because it's the most effective way to get this kind of weapon to work en masse. All right, now time for some science. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to pull the trigger, and hopefully this piece, which the French, they call this le chien. That means the dog in French. They thought it looked like the head of a dog. That's going to be thrown forward. Hopefully this little piece of flint will collide with this steel hammer. And hopefully the collision between the flint and the steel will produce sparks. Now hopefully the sparks are going to land on top of some black powder that's hopefully still going to be in this pan here, and hopefully that's going to make a small explosion. Hopefully that small explosion travels in through a small touch hole and hopefully ignites even more black powder inside the barrel here. And hopefully that explosion inside the barrel will hopefully create enough pressure to hopefully send that round lead 65 caliber musket ball out, hopefully for me as a Frenchman, into some English pig dog's chest. But what word did I just use a lot in that explanation? Hopefully was that word. And I do that on purpose because the gun doesn't like to work in weather conditions like the sleet, the snow, the hail, the rain, too hot, too cold, too windy, too foggy, too muggy, too humid. Fridays aren't real good either. Just kidding. But I will give you a serious disclaimer. The gun might not go off in the first try, even on a nice day like today, so don't laugh at me too hard until at least the 5th misfire. All right, so I have to grab some ammunition, so I'm going to grab a cartridge out of my cartridge box. Most people think this looks like a fanny pack. And I guess it is, but it is the coolest fanny pack you're ever going to see because this fanny pack is filled with explosives. At least that's my favorite part. Now my cartridge here is just a paper tube filled with black powder. That musket ball would be sitting right here at the bottom of the cartridge in the 18th century, but today I decided not to include a musket ball in this particular cartridge because up until now, I guess, most of you have been fairly well behaved. Although now that I'm looking, you guys are all lined up against a wall. Just kidding. New York State and the insurance company hate it when we kill people, so don't worry. But it will still go boom, so don't be discouraged. Now, how do you guys think I'm going to open this cartridge?
With your teeth.
I can't hear you. I shoot cannons for a living.
With your teeth.
Thank you. Bon appetit. Oh, and if you think chewing on paper like that is disgusting, you guys should see the chemicals in a Pop-Tart. So I'm going to shut the pan after pouring some powder into it, and then I'm going to take the rest of my cartridge. I'm going to dump that down the barrel. Then I'm going to take out my ramrod. I'm going to ram that cartridge down to the bottom of the barrel. And now I'm ready to shoot. So hopefully, here goes. On the count of 3, 2, 1. All right. So I want you to take a big old whiff of that smoke there for a second. You smelling that smell? Smells like rotten eggs, doesn't it? Well, that's also the smell of victory. And actually what that is sulfur. It's both in eggs and in gunpowder. But I want you to notice the amount of smoke because that's one musket shooting one time. The battlefield back then is going to be hundreds, if not thousands of guys shooting these lots of times. Plus you got cannons going off, which produce even more smoke. You can see where that battlefield in the 1700s would get so smoky that it'd be hard to see. So if you guys were there in that smoky, hard to see 18th century battlefield, who's going to be more dangerous to you? Is it the enemy 200 yards in front of you that you can't see through the smoke? Or is it your friends 10 feet behind you that can't see you through the smoke? It's going to be your friends because they're closer. They're going to do a lot more damage than the enemy. And if they can't see you through the smoke, your friends might accidentally shoot you in the back because they can't see you. So to prevent that kind of friendly fire on smoky 18th century battlefields, that's why most everyone on them was wearing a brightly colored coat. Because of the contrast with the gray smoke, you get to see through the smoke, even with the white, who you're supposed to shoot at. More importantly, though, who you're not supposed to shoot at. And that's why you see all these colorful uniforms, like red uniforms, white uniforms, blue uniforms. They kind of go away with the advent of smokeless gunpowder. Now, before I let you go, who here likes weapons? Excellent. I only need one person to raise their hand, but I'm digging the enthusiasm. For those of you who didn't raise your hand, that's too bad because I'm going to show you anyway. And I'm the one with the weapons. Now, you guys definitely all know what this is. Sword, exactly. Now, swords are cool. I know everyone likes a good swashbuckle, right? Yeah, but unfortunately, by the 1700s on a battlefield, this is an obsolete weapon, kind of a hangover from the previous century, because you can only do one thing with a sword on a battlefield. What is that? Stabbing people, exactly. So, the problem is this. The people you're going to stab with this sword on that 18th century battlefield, what do they also have? Muskets, guns, cannons. They've got shooty things, too. So by the time you get into range to actually use your sword for its one intended purpose of stabbing, what kind of cheese are you going to quickly turn into? Swiss, because you'd be full of holes. We've also accepted shredded or smoked. Now, I have one final weapon for you guys, and it also puts holes in people. And what it does is it turns my shooty thing here into a shooty stabby thing. Yeah, that's not the real name for it, though. You got it. This is the triangular socket bayonet, but the reason why I call it a shooty stabby thing is because you can still shoot the gun while this is fixed to it. Now, like I said, it's a triangular bayonet, meaning they're making these on purpose triangularly. And the reason why they're doing that is actually due to steel quality. Steel quality in the 18th century isn't as good as it is today, so they had to pick a shape that was less likely to bend or break in combat. A shape with structural integrity, and that is the real reason these are triangular. So no, they did not make these triangular just to give people triangular wounds. That's more of a side bonus. But going on to that side bonus, triangular wounds, even today in the 21st century, I've been told by doctors, modern medical professionals, that they are still difficult to seal, let alone in the 18th century, you're probably just going to bleed out. And if you don't bleed out from the shape of the wound, does this blade look overly clean to anyone here? No, you can probably see the rust in the dirt just from where you're standing. So, what would you do if you were to see me and 1,000 of my French buddies? Now, they're not going to run at you like in the movies. That's just a terrible idea. That's how you turn your nice organized line into a disorganized, chaotic mob. No, instead what they're going to do back then is they're going to wait until your morale is low. They're going to wait until they outnumber you. And what they'll do is they'll slowly start walking at you like this, giving you time to think about this encroaching wall of triangular 6-foot pikes covered in rust, dirt, and other assorted bodily fluids. Remember, you're scared and outnumbered. What would you do? That's a good answer. In fact, that's the only correct answer. If you didn't say run away, you're either a prisoner or triangular Swiss cheese. But if you ran away, you get to live to fight another day. And to sweeten that deal further, if you guys were my enemy and you ran away from me as an infantryman, I'm probably not going to chase after you because you've just left the field. I've taken it. I've won the day. My job is done. I don't have to pursue you any further. But speaking about pursuit, do you guys see these two, not one, but two heavy wool coats I'm wearing? Do I want to run after anything? No, I don't. It was a very rhetorical question. And during this summer, these uniforms really seal in the flavor. And on that lovely note, I bid you adieu. If you have any questions, come on up and ask myself, or just find anybody in a silly hat. We're not dressed up all pretty for nothing. Thank you. You're free.
Awesome. Thank you. তুমি পড়ে যাও